Samson the judge and Nazirite Samson is one of the most famous judges of Israel, known for his incredible strength and dramatic life. His story, found in the Book of Judges, chapters 13 to 16, reveals how God empowered him as a Nazirite to deliver Israel from the Philistines. Set apart from birth, Samson was dedicated to God, with his strength tied to his uncut hair. Despite personal weaknesses and impulsive behavior, God used him mightily. His life is marked by conflict, betrayal, and redemption. Samson's journey shows the danger of unfaithfulness, the consequence of sin, and ultimately, the mercy and power of God in restoring purpose. Samson's birth, foretold. An angel appeared to Manoah and his wife, a barren woman, announcing that she would give birth to a special child. The child was to be a Nazirite from birth, never drinking wine, eating unclean food, or cutting his hair. This divine intervention indicated Samson's unique destiny. His birth was not an accident, but part of God's plan to begin delivering Israel from Philistine oppression. The parents obeyed the angel's instructions, dedicating Samson to the Lord. This miraculous beginning set the tone for a life marked by God's purpose, even amid Samson's later struggles with discipline and obedience. Samson's strength and the Spirit of the Lord. Samson's strength was not merely physical, it was a gift from the Spirit of the Lord. As he grew, the Spirit began to stir in him, empowering him to perform supernatural feats. His strength symbolized God's power, working through human vessels, even flawed ones. Whether slaying a lion or defeating armies, Samson's might was tied directly to his calling. This divine empowerment was a reminder to Israel that deliverance came from God. Samson's strength, however, required faithfulness. It was not for personal gain, but to fulfill God's purpose in liberating his people from their enemies. Samson and the lion. While traveling to Timnah, Samson was attacked by a young lion. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him powerfully, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands. Later he returned to the carcass and found bees had made a hive in it, from which he took honey. This event revealed both his supernatural strength and his disregard for Nazirite vows. Touching a dead body made him ceremonially unclean. It also became part of a riddle he used at his wedding. The lion incident symbolizes Samson's potential and his tendency to misuse divine gifts for personal amusement. The riddle and the betrayal. At his wedding feast in Timnah, Samson posed a riddle to the Philistine guests, based on his lion encounter. They couldn't solve it, so they coerced Samson's wife into extracting the answer. She pleaded with Samson until he revealed the secret. The Philistines answered the riddle, and Samson, realizing the betrayal, became enraged. He struck down 30 men in Ashkelon to settle the debt. This episode shows how Samson's impulsive nature and pride led to conflict. It also highlights the deceitfulness of those around him and sets off a chain of vengeance that marked much of his life. Revenge on the Philistines. In response to betrayal and mockery, Samson took extreme measures against the Philistines. He caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together in pairs with torches, and released them into the Philistines' grain fields, destroying their crops. This act of revenge triggered retaliation from the Philistines, who killed Samson's wife and her father. Samson then attacked them hip and thigh with great slaughter. This series of events demonstrates the escalating cycle of vengeance and the destructive consequences of unchecked anger. Yet through it all, God continued to use Samson's actions to weaken the Philistines and fulfill his larger plan. Samson slays 1,000 men with a jawbone. When the Philistines came to capture Samson, the Israelites bound him and handed him over. But as the enemy approached, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, and he broke free. Finding a fresh donkey's jawbone, Samson used it to kill 1,000 Philistine men. After the battle, he cried out in thirst, and God miraculously provided water. This story shows Samson's incredible strength when empowered by God, and also reveals his dependence on divine provision. It also highlights how God can use even the humblest tool, a jawbone, to bring about a great victory. Samson and Delilah, a woman from the valley of Sorek, was bribed by the Philistines to discover the secret of Samson's strength. After several failed attempts, she finally wore him down, and he revealed that his strength lay in his uncut hair. Delilah betrayed him, cutting his hair while he slept, and handed him over to the Philistines. This tragic chapter shows Samson's fatal flaw, his inability to resist temptation and discern manipulation. Despite multiple warnings, he let love and pride blind him. His downfall reminds readers that even the mightiest fall when they stray from God's commands and trust the wrong people. Samson's capture and humiliation. With his hair cut and strength gone, Samson was seized by the Philistines. They gouged out his eyes and imprisoned him in Gaza, forcing him to grind grain like a slave. Once a mighty warrior, he became a symbol of defeat and humiliation. The Philistines mocked him and praised their god Dagon for the victory. This moment marked Samson's lowest point, physically blind, spiritually humbled, and stripped of honor. Yet even in disgrace, God was not done with him. This phase of his life reminds us that failure isn't final, and God can still redeem the broken for his purpose. Samson's final prayer and death. While imprisoned, Samson's hair began to grow again, a sign that restoration was possible. During a celebration in the temple of Dagon, the Philistines brought Samson out to entertain them. He prayed to God for strength one last time and pushed against the temple pillars, collapsing the structure and killing more Philistines in his death than in his life. This final act was both vengeance and victory. It fulfilled God's purpose of delivering Israel from oppression. Samson's prayer showed a renewed dependence on God, and his death symbolized redemption. Even in weakness, God's power was perfected through his final sacrifice. Legacy of Samson. Samson's story is a powerful mix of strength and weakness, triumph and tragedy. As one of Israel's judges, he led for 20 years during a time of great conflict. His life reveals the tension between divine calling and human failure. Though impulsive and often disobedient, Samson remained a tool in God's hand. His legacy warns of the dangers of pride and compromise, but also points to the hope of redemption. God used him, flaws and all, to begin deliverance for Israel. Samson's life encourages believers to trust God's strength,